Forget the national headlines for a moment. Forget even the state-level politics. Today, we're going to go deeper. We're going right down to the soil, to a single constituency in Nagaland. You see, if you really want to understand the health of our democracy, you have to look at the anatomy of one single vote. So let's go to Dimapur III, and let's try to understand what happens when that sacred bond between a voter and their vote starts to fray.
So here we are, Dimapur III. It's where the city meets the countryside. A real mix. It's a constituency reserved for scheduled tribes. And make no mistake, the electorate here is sharp, they're literate, and they are politically engaged. But, and this is the crucial part, just beneath that surface, there's a powerful current of disillusionment. It's pulling people's faith away from the very system they participate in. And that, right there, is the paradox we need to get our heads around.
Which leads us to the heart of the matter. This isn't a story about apathy. Not at all. We're not talking about people who've just given up and stay home on election day. No, this is about a community that shows up time and time again, and yet feels completely unheard. So the real question is this. How does a community with one of the highest voter turnouts in the country lose faith in the power of its own vote?
Just look at this. Over 80%. And not just once. This is consistent, election after election. Think about that. These are people who absolutely believe in doing their democratic duty. They show up, they vote. So the problem here, it's clearly not about engagement. It's a crisis of outcome, a crisis of what happens after the vote is cast.
And if you want to know what that crisis sounds like, listen to this. A voter on the ground told us, and I'm quoting here, "It doesn't make any difference who we vote for. Whoever wins will join the ruling government and we won't see them for 5 years." Just let that sink in. That's the sound of what I'd call political homelessness. The feeling that no matter which door you knock on, nobody's home. It's the ultimate paradox, feeling completely powerless at the exact moment you're supposed to be exercising your power.
So what's really going on here? Well, politics in this constituency has split into two completely different paths. On one side, you have what we call earned trust. This is the long game. It's a contract built on real governance, on service, on accountability. But then there's the other side, rented noise. That's the short-term game. It's a noisy marketplace where votes are bought with cash and freebies. This isn't just a political contest anymore. It's a fundamental battle for what representation even means. This touches upon the core of our constitutional values. The dignity of every single voter rests on the belief that their voice, their choice, is heard and respected. Informed public speech with responsibility from all sides is the foundation. When that erodes, the system itself is at risk.
All right, so we've heard the voices from the ground. We have a sense of the feeling, the disillusionment. But feelings are one thing. Let's look at the numbers. Because the data tells its own undeniable story. And we need to listen to it very carefully if we want to get a proper diagnosis.
Take a look at this. 2013, the winner is INC. 2018, it's the NPF. By 2023, it's the NDPP. See the pattern? The power here doesn't settle. It swings back and forth, like a pendulum. Now, you could just call this volatility, but I think it's something deeper. This is the signature of an electorate that is actively searching. They are looking for a political home, for real representation, and they just haven't found it yet.
And how close is the contest? Well, in 2023, the winner got in by just 1,536 votes. That's it. In a whole constituency, that's the difference. In a race this tight, every single vote, every single voice has incredible power, which just makes that feeling of powerlessness we heard about earlier all the more heartbreaking, isn't it?
And if you look at the history of this seat, you'll see this is not a quiet electorate, not at all. Back in 1998, they organized a political boycott and turnout just collapsed to under 14%. That's a powerful statement. You see elections decided by a handful of votes. And just recently in 2023, they made history by electing their first ever woman MLA. The point is, this is an active thinking electorate. They are not passive bystanders.
Okay, let's look at the raw data for a second, across 7 terms. Now, a couple of things jump out. First, you'll see the same names pop up again and again, but under different party flags. This tells you that personal loyalties, individual relationships, often matter more here than party ideology. But look closer at the margins. It goes from a comfortable 4,700 vote win in '93 to a nail-biting 286 vote margin just a decade later. This is what an unsettled, fiercely competitive political landscape looks like in numbers.
So the diagnosis seems pretty clear, right? We have a highly engaged community that is systematically losing faith in the power of its own vote. So now comes the most important question of all. What do you do about it? How does any political party, any leader, break this cycle? How do you stop renting noise and start earning trust? Well, there's a blueprint for that.
The framework is called the Chaturmukha Doctrine. Chaturmukha meaning four-faced, and it's called that for a reason, because this isn't just about winning the next election. This is a deep, comprehensive strategy to completely rebuild that broken relationship between the people and their leaders. You have to attack the problem from all four sides at once.
So what are these four phases? First, you need a clear narrative. You have to make the choice crystal clear for every voter. Are we choosing earned trust or rented noise? Second, organization. Trust isn't built from a distance. It's built on the ground, by people, for people. That means hyperlocal teams with a real focus on bringing in the youth and the women. Third, the issues. Your campaign can't be about empty promises. It has to be anchored in solving the real everyday problems people face. And finally, fourth, communications. You need to use everything, from grassroots outreach to modern digital tools, to get that message of trust out there.
And we're not talking about abstract policy debates here. These are the core grievances, the things that keep people up at night. Finding a decent livelihood for the youth. Just being able to get from one place to another with proper transport. Making sure women are safe and empowered. Developing areas that have been left behind for too long. And addressing this deep exhaustion with the whole cash for votes system. A real strategy doesn't just have a bullet point for these. It makes solving them its entire reason for being. And this is where modern frameworks like India's DPDP Act become so important. As you build these new communication channels, you must respect people's privacy and their consent. You're not just collecting data, you're building a relationship. And that relationship has to be founded on respecting the dignity and the personal information of every single citizen you want to serve.
Which leaves us with one final big question. Can a strategy that is patient, that is built on the slow work of earning trust, can it actually win against the system that is built on fast, easy, short-term transactions? The answer to that question, not just in Dimapur but in so many places like it, will define the future of our democracy. The path forward is difficult, but it is clear. For any leader who is truly committed to being on the right side of that answer, a new people-centric strategy isn't just an option, it's the only way. If you want to become a people-centric leader and uplift your constituency, get in touch with blueprintstrategies.ai at mgr@blueprintstrategies.ai or call 080-4204-1602. Purpose beyond politics.